Hi everybody. Today we're going to be talking about incident notification under the work health and safety and electrical safety legislation. My name is Michael Terry. I'm from Momentum Safety and Ergonomics, and this is the 5-Minute Safety Series. So generally speaking, what we're talking about when we're talking about incident notification is the duty of a business or undertaking to notify the work health and safety regulator when an incident occurs in their workplace. And it's a certain type of incident that must be notified. And it's important to realize as well that there are actual penalties for non-notification. So if, for example, something happened and Work Health and Safety Queensland or your local regulator in Australia otherwise found out about this, which they can do from various means, there is potential fines for that business as well. So let's jump in and look at what types of incidents must be notified. And we can look at this from the point of view of looking at it under the Work Health and Safety legislation, in which case we must notify fatalities, serious injuries and illnesses, and dangerous events. The electrical safety legislation under Queensland is very similar, and this is going to be any what we call a serious electrical incident or a dangerous electrical event. So these are very similar categories actually to the work health and safety legislation, but they are separate because they do come under separate legislation. Jumping on and look at those specifically so we know what they actually refer to, and I've given you a link here. There's much more detail on the actual regulator's webpage, so I'd encourage you to refer to that. So serious injury or illness is really 5 key categories. The first one is any injury or illness that requires a person to have some immediate treatment as an inpatient in a hospital. So inpatient meaning they're not just admitted, they're not just going to emergency, they're actually admitted into the hospital. It might also be immediate treatment for one of these things, such as amputations, head injuries, serious burns. And again, each of those particular categories there have their own set of specific definitions, which it's a bit too much to display on these slides, but you can definitely find those on your regulator's webpage. The third category is any medical treatment within 48 hours from exposure to a substance. This is going to be, doesn't have to be admitted to a hospital, but it might be a doctor or someone like that where you receive some sort of illness from an exposure to a substance. Fourth one is any infection to which your work was a significant contributing factor. And again, they give you a nice list of what those infections are. And the last one is an occupational zoonosis, which is some sort of infection or disease contracted by an animal, whereby that source of work was a contributor towards that. So vets, farms, those sorts of places, and that's going to be very relevant too. A dangerous incident is any time where a serious incident could have happened, but through maybe luck or chance, it actually did not. So again, we have a very specific list of events which are classified as dangerous incidents under the work health and safety legislation. Again, I won't read through them all, but that's a little bit of a list that you can look at on the screen right now. Serious electrical incidents fall under the same sorts of categories as the serious injuries or illnesses, but they obviously pertain specifically to electricity. So we're talking about things like shock or injury, and if it's treated by a doctor, or even if someone receives a shock or injury from high voltage power, it's notifiable even if they weren't treated by a doctor. And dangerous electrical events refer to pretty much unsafe electrical practice. So unsafe electrical work, property damaged, unlicensed work, those sorts of things, the types of things that fall into the category of dangerous electrical events. So all of these are the main things that need to be notified. So I guess the next question is, what do you need to do if one of those actually occurs in your workplace? And so, yes, you must notify the regulator, and you must notify them as soon as you become aware, the you being the business or undertaking, and you must notify the regulator by an approved means. So this generally means either a telephone with a follow-up notification or using the online notification. So you'll choose the appropriate means depending on the nature of the incident. Other points to make that you need to be aware of is that you need to keep these records of notifications for at least 5 years. That's legally required of you. And the business also has a duty to preserve the incident site. So not to disturb and just put things back to business as normal until given approval by the regulator, inspector, police, or if there's some sort of need to make the situation safe or remove a person, something like that. But if those things don't apply, then we have a duty to ensure that the work site or the site is preserved really for investigation. So looking at the screen here, we can see this is Queensland's Work Health and Safety webpage, and it's right on the very front page. There's a notify an incident option there, and it'll take you to this form here. Now, every other regulator would have something similar in their jurisdiction. So the last sort of, I guess, thing to consider is what happens after you make this notification. And that's really going to depend on the severity of the incident, maybe the history of your business. If you've notified a lot, they're going to be more likely to investigate. Whereas if this is your first one and you've got an otherwise good history and the incident's not too severe, perhaps a phone call might be appropriate. But certainly you should be preparing yourself for a visit from an inspector and the potential for an investigation from them. After they've done their investigation, and obviously we can do more, we'll give you some more information on these in later videos, but the things that can happen are things like improvement notices, prohibition notices, fines, and if it's severe, the regulator may even start building a case for prosecution against the business. So there we go, guys. That was an incident notification in as short a time as I could do it. Hopefully we got all the information over to you there. If you do require further information, I would strongly encourage you to jump on your regulator's website, and we'll give you some links to those at the end of this video. Thanks for listening.